You're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. Your heart races, your jaw clenches, and you honk the horn as if that will magically clear the road. Or maybe you're refreshing your email obsessively, waiting for a response that will determine your future. Or scrolling through comments on your post, anxious to see what strangers think. In all these moments, you're suffering, not because of the situation itself, but because you're trying to control what you can't control. The Stoics identified this as the root of almost all human suffering. They called it the dichotomy of control, and it's the most fundamental principle of Stoic philosophy. What's one thing you know you can't control but still stress about anyway? Drop it in the comments. Let's see how universal this struggle is. The dichotomy of control is the Stoic distinction between what is within your power and what is not. Epictetus, who began life as a slave and became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, opened his Enchiridion with the principle, some things are within our control, and some things are not. He taught that the only thing truly within your control is your own thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions, your internal responses. Everything else, other people's opinions, the weather, the past, the future, your reputation, your health, the economy, politics, is outside your control. The Stoics argued that when you try to control what you cannot control, you create suffering. When you focus your energy on what you can control, you find peace and power. This isn't about giving up or becoming passive. It's about directing your effort where it can actually make a difference. Before we go further, does this idea feel liberating or frustrating to you? Let me know in the comments. Humans are wired to seek control. From an evolutionary perspective, feeling in control increased survival. If you could control your environment, you were safer. But modern life has created an illusion of control that doesn't match reality. We have more information, more options, more connectivity, yet we're more anxious than ever. Why? Because we're trying to control things that were never controllable. What people think of us, whether we get the job, if our post goes viral, whether our partner changes, if the stock market goes up. The brain doesn't naturally distinguish between what it can and cannot control. It just tries to control everything. This creates chronic stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Modern psychology now calls this an external locus of control, when you believe your life is controlled by outside forces. The antidote is developing an internal locus of control, focusing on what you can actually influence. Do you feel like you have control over your life, or does it feel like things just happen to you? Honest answers only. Comment below. Let's get specific about what is actually within your control. First, your attention, where you direct your focus, what you choose to notice, and what you ignore. Second, your interpretations, the meaning you assign to events, the story you tell yourself about what happened. Third, your intentions, what you're trying to accomplish, the values you're acting from, your purpose. Fourth, your effort, how hard you try, how much energy you invest, whether you show up. Fifth, your responses, what you say, how you act, the choices you make. Sixth, your character, the kind of person you're becoming through your daily choices. These 6 things are your domain. They are always available to you, no matter what's happening externally. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is where your true power lives. Which of these 6 things do you feel you have the most control over? And which one do you struggle with? Let me know in the comments. Now, let's be equally specific about what is outside your control. First, other people's thoughts, feelings, opinions, and actions. You can influence, but never control. Second, the past. It's done, unchangeable, fixed. Third, the future. You can prepare, but you cannot guarantee outcomes. Fourth, your reputation. What people say about you, how they perceive you, whether they like you. Fifth, external events. The weather, traffic, the economy, politics, natural disasters, pandemics. Sixth, outcomes. Whether you get the job, win the game, receive the promotion, get the recognition. Seventh, your body's limitations. Aging, illness, injury, and death. These things are not your domain. You can influence some of them indirectly, but you cannot control them directly. The Stoics taught that attaching your peace of mind to these external things is a recipe for suffering. Epictetus said, "If you regard that which is not your own as your own, you will be hindered. You will lament. You will be disturbed. You will blame both gods and men." What's the hardest thing on this list for you to let go of? For me, it's other people's opinions. What's yours? Comment below. You cannot control whether someone loves you, stays with you, changes for you, or treats you the way you want. You cannot control their mood, their choices, their past, or their healing journey. Trying to control these things creates resentment, manipulation, and suffering on both sides. But you can control how you show up, how you communicate, what boundaries you set, whether you listen, how you respond to conflict, what you're willing to accept, and when you choose to stay or leave. This shift is profound. Instead of, "Why won't they change?" you ask, "How do I want to show up, regardless of what they do?" Instead of, "Why don't they appreciate me?" you ask, "Am I living according to my values in this relationship?" This doesn't mean you accept mistreatment. Boundaries are within your control. It means you stop exhausting yourself trying to change someone else and start focusing on being the person you want to be. Have you ever tried to change someone and realized you were just making yourself miserable? If you'd like, share your story below. We've all been there. You cannot control whether you get hired, promoted, recognized, or praised. You cannot control your boss's mood, your coworker's behavior, company politics, or market conditions. You cannot control whether your work goes viral, gets funding, or receives awards. Trying to control these outcomes creates anxiety, burnout, and bitterness. What you can control: the quality of your work, your professionalism, your attitude, how you treat colleagues, whether you keep learning, how you respond to feedback, what skills you develop, and when you choose to stay or leave a toxic environment. This is incredibly freeing. You can pour yourself into excellent work without attaching your worth to external validation. You can do your best and let the results be what they are. The Stoics called this the reserve clause. Do everything in your power, then add, fate permitting, or if nothing prevents it. You control the effort. The outcome is not yours to control. What's one work outcome you've been stressing about that's actually outside your control? Let's practice letting it go together. Comment below. You cannot control whether people like your post, agree with your opinion, share your content, or say nice things about you. You cannot control trolls, critics, algorithms, or virality. You cannot control your follower count, engagement rate, or online reputation. Trying to control these things turns social media into a source of constant anxiety and validation seeking. What you can control: what you post, why you post it, how you respond to comments, or whether you respond at all, how much time you spend online, what you consume, and whether you let strangers' opinions affect your peace. The Stoics would say that your character matters, your reputation does not. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinions of others." You can create meaningful content, share your truth, and let the response be what it is. Or you can step back entirely if the platform no longer serves you. Either way, your peace of mind is within your control. Do you struggle with social media anxiety? What's your relationship with likes, comments, and validation? Let's talk about it in the comments. If the dichotomy of control sounds familiar, it's because a version of it appears in the Serenity Prayer, used widely in recovery communities. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This prayer, though modern, captures the ancient Stoic wisdom perfectly. Serenity comes from accepting what you cannot control. Courage comes from acting on what you can. Wisdom is knowing which is which. The Stoics would add one more element: focusing your energy entirely on what you can control and releasing your attachment to what you cannot. This isn't resignation, it's strategic focus. It's putting your effort where it can actually make a difference. Does the Serenity Prayer resonate with you? Or do you have another version of this wisdom that guides you? Share it in the comments. It's not passivity. You can still take action. You just don't attach your peace to outcomes. It's not giving up. You still try your best. You just accept that results aren't guaranteed. It's not fatalism. You're not saying nothing matters. You're saying, I'll focus on what I can influence. It's not an excuse for laziness. You still work hard. You just work smart by directing effort where it counts. It's not about caring. You can care deeply about outcomes while accepting you don't control them. It's not suppressing emotions. You can feel disappointed, sad, or frustrated. You just don't let those feelings control your actions. It's not about controlling your thoughts perfectly. Even your thoughts aren't fully controllable, but your response to them is. The dichotomy of control is about strategic focus, not emotional detachment. It's about power, not powerlessness. What misconception did you have about this concept before watching? Let me know if this cleared anything up. First, morning practice. Before your day begins, identify one thing you cannot control that you tend to worry about, and consciously release it. Then identify one thing you can control today, and commit to it. Second, the pause. When you feel stressed, anxious, or frustrated, pause and ask, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. Third, the reframe practice. When something bad happens, ask, what part of this can I control? And focus there. Fourth, evening reflection. Review your day and notice where you wasted energy on things outside your control, and when you effectively focused on what you could control. Fifth, the circle exercise. Draw 2 circles, one for things within your control, one for things outside it. When you're stressed, write down what's bothering you and place it in the correct circle. The visual practice makes the distinction concrete. Sixth, the mantra practice. When you catch yourself trying to control the uncontrollable, repeat, not mine to control, and redirect your attention. Which of these practices are you going to try this week? Let me know in the comments and come back to tell me how it went. When you truly internalize the dichotomy of control, something shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances. You stop waiting for external conditions to be perfect before you can be at peace. You stop giving your power away to things and people outside yourself. You become unshakable, not because nothing bothers you, but because your peace isn't dependent on things going your way. Marcus Aurelius called this the inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that cannot be breached by external events. Epictetus, who lived as a slave, found more freedom in his mind than most free people ever experience. That's the promise of this practice. True freedom, not from external constraints, but from internal suffering. You can be stuck in traffic and be at peace. You can lose the job and maintain your dignity. You can face criticism and remain centered. This is what the Stoics meant by freedom. Have you experienced this kind of inner freedom? What did it feel like? Share your experience in the comments. This practice is simple in concept, but difficult in execution. It goes against your evolutionary wiring. It requires constant vigilance because your mind will default to trying to control everything. Some days you'll forget entirely and spend hours anxious about how things outside your control. That's normal. Some situations feel impossible to let go of. A loved one's health, a child's choices, a job you desperately need. The Stoics would say, you can still care deeply, you can still take every action available to you, but you must release your attachment to the outcome. This doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means the pain doesn't destroy you. If you're struggling with this practice, be patient with yourself. It's a lifelong practice, not a one-time realization. Even Marcus Aurelius, after decades of Stoic practice, still had to remind himself daily in his meditations. What situation in your life feels impossible to let go of control over? Share it below. Sometimes just naming it helps. One person spent years anxious about their adult child's choices, constantly trying to fix and control. Finally, they practiced the dichotomy of control. They focused on being a supportive presence and let go of trying to change their child's path. The relationship improved, and their anxiety decreased dramatically. Another person in a toxic work environment realized they couldn't control their boss's behavior, but could control their boundaries, their job search, and their decision to leave. They quit, found better work, and reclaimed their power. A third person was paralyzed by fear of failure, constantly worried about outcomes, then shifted to focusing only on effort and process. They became more productive, more creative, and, paradoxically, more successful because they weren't attached to results. A fourth person was devastated by online criticism, then practiced distinguishing between what they could control and what they couldn't. They found peace and kept creating. Has the dichotomy of control changed your life in any way? Share your transformation story in the comments. It might inspire someone else. This week, practice the dichotomy of control every single day. Start each morning by identifying one thing you cannot control that you're going to consciously let go of, and one thing you can control that you're going to focus on. Throughout the day, when you feel stressed, pause and ask, is this within my control? If yes, take action. If no, practice letting it go. At the end of each day, reflect on when you wasted energy on the uncontrollable and when you effectively focused on what you could control. Write it down if that helps. By day 7, notice what's changed. Not in your external circumstances, but in your internal state. Notice if you feel more peaceful, more empowered, more free. If you're taking this challenge, comment "I'm in" below. Then come back in 7 days and tell me what you learned. I'll be reading every comment and cheering you on. The dichotomy of control is not just a Stoic technique. It's a way of life. It's the foundation of mental peace in a chaotic world. When you stop trying to control what you cannot control and start focusing entirely on what you can, you reclaim your power. You become free. That's what we're building here at Stoic for Life. Ancient wisdom that actually works in modern life. Clarity in the noise, and the courage to focus on what matters. What's one thing you're going to stop trying to control after watching this? Drop it in the comments. Let's practice letting go together. And if this video helped you, please subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. What Stoic topic should I cover next? Let me know below.